Hi, everyone. I'm Shaheen from The Content Mix, and I'm here with Léo Moulinas, Marketing Director, EMEA at Hays, a leading professional recruiting group based in London and operating around the world. Thanks so much for joining us, Léo.
Thank you for having me.
So where are you joining us from today?
Well, I'm currently based in Barcelona, though we've got a variety of offices around the world, as you said. Our global headquarters is in London. We're an English British company to start with, but expanded across the globe. So I happen to actually be based in Barcelona in the region that I've got responsibilities over, EMEA, mainly continental Europe and Middle East. But we also have other hubs in Australia, the Americas, South America, and also a big hub in Germany as well.
Okay, so I guess usually you would be doing a lot of travel to different markets, but right now you're stationary there in Barcelona for the moment.
Yeah, and I'm not complaining so much about this. Neither are my kids and wife, since I'm obviously less traveling now. But yes, part of the job was obviously to work with the teams. There's nothing like human interactions in the end, as much as I think platforms have definitely been the forefront of what we do now to run meetings or work with people through Zoom or Microsoft Teams or other type of sort of Skype-related platforms. I think that traveling is and will hopefully resume at some point to allow us to get back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to get to know you a bit better, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into marketing in the first place, and then kind of your career trajectory up to now?
Sure. Well, working in marketing sort of came over time, I suppose. It's not that I had like a personal aspiration to become a marketing director from a very young age, but it all started with obviously the studies, which I completed in France, but was lucky to benefit from an exchange program to go and do a master's degree in the States in California, and that's obviously where marketing in the Silicon Valley was particularly sort of big, and the latest innovations over there were very interesting. So that's more or less what led me to start a career in marketing following my MBA in San Francisco, where I managed to work for my first sort of job at E-Trade for about 3 years, and learn a great deal of marketing techniques at the time. That was when I suppose digital marketing was becoming bigger and bigger in the marketing mix and budgets. And then after this first sort of stunt, I decided to travel a little bit and then go back to the homeland and Europe in particular, which I did back in 2004, and started working for actually E-Trade again. That was looking for someone to launch its operation in Europe and in France, where I'm originally from in the first instance. So that's what I did. Then moved to some other more regional roles at E-Trade in London, and eventually sort of moved back to Paris to work for Expedia and their B2B branch, I would say, called Agencia, where I spent a couple of years, so managing European marketing for them. And from there on, decided to take a fantastic opportunity with Hays, which is basically encompassing I suppose the two target audiences that I was dealing with in the first instance: B2C, when I was working for E-Trade, because that was all about investment solutions for individuals, and B2B, which is what I was doing at Expedia before. So for the last 8 years, I've been sort of managing marketing for the EMEA region at Hays. That's a global recruiter, and that somehow encompasses two main target audiences: the candidates, that's the B2C side. So we're trying to really engage and speak to as many of these very useful and hard to find candidates for our clients. And at the same time, we're trying to speak and market to organizations that are in recruitment needs, and try to sell our services, or at least engage with them and sell our services to these guys, and basically be the middleman between the two, so matching jobs from clients to the appropriate candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what we do at Hayes, and I'm very privileged to be able to market those services with a team of about 80 people, spread across the 14 markets that we've got in continental Europe. So there's obviously a lot of specificities, market by market, but all in that's recruitment industry that's spanning across all these countries.
So the 80 people, that's the marketing team, or that's like marketing and sales? I mean, I imagine.
No, just marketing actually. So we've got countries where we've got larger teams, like Germany, for example, with about 20, 25 guys, or one-man bands in smaller geographies, I would say. I'll pick Italy, for example, where we've got two individuals based in Milan running marketing in Italy for Hayes. But working with all these guys and obviously driving the strategy there and trying to exchange best practice, lead the team, and plan, I suppose the strategic sort of initiatives that we got across the region.
I see. So it's really impressive. You've worked with like really big names in each of these three very different industries. So I was curious, like, what's the commonality in your role, or like what has been the same and what's different, I guess, that you've done in each of these different companies.
Well, obviously the industries are very different, so you're not going to market an investment or sort of banking solution the same way you're gonna market recruitment services to clients. But I think that the rules around marketing always remain the same and are fairly basic. And for me, when I'm being asked, what is it that you do, and I'm saying I'm doing marketing and communication, it's down to pretty much two things for me. The first one is that I'm in charge of building the brand, the reputation of the organization that employs me. And no one else is doing that. To be frank, the marketing department is really directly responsible for building the equity and the brand equity and the brand, for an organization. Something that is very valuable to shareholders, because if you're selling a company, I think the brand equity is obviously part of the valuation process. So we've got direct responsibilities in marketing to build that brand. And the other side of the equation is fairly basic, and it's backing up the sales, whether the sales are very direct or conducted online, or through sales teams and more traditional commercial functions, I would say. I think that marketing is always working hand in hand with the the sales function, to make sure that actually the sales volumes are reaching the objectives. And marketing is quite essential. So you could probably claim that sales is marketing or marketing is sales, but I definitely see marketing as a very strong sort of cog in the overall commercial engine of any organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think like the role of marketing has shifted like during the time that you've been working in marketing? I mean, your long career.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, when it was a little bit more traditional, maybe more sort of PR driven, or the more of the traditional marketing mixes that we've all studied at uni 20 years ago, nothing's sort of is really much the same right now. There's no such thing as planning, I don't know, marketing 3 years in advance with a strategic plan anymore. It's obviously gone a lot shorter in terms of the cycles. The agility, the adaptability is very, very important for marketing. But nonetheless, I think that the core pillars of a marketing function remain the same, and it's basically back to creativity, customer experience. It's back to techniques to engage with your target audience, and making sure that you're staying top of mind with the people that you're after, that you're trying to engage with.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then when it comes to content marketing, which is kind of our focus at the Content Mix, that's obviously become a bigger part of the marketing mix. I'm curious, like, how you use content at Hayes to engage with your target audiences, and can you explain who your audiences are?
Yeah. So, well, it's all started, as you said, with who are we trying to talk to, and in the case of Hayes, as a recruiter, we are trying to speak as much to clients, so organizations that may have some recruitment needs and may need to recruit some talents. And the other very important target audience, obviously, is the candidate audience. So anyone with a willingness to make a move in terms of career, or not even like a willingness just yet, but interested in a career path or management of his or her career. We're trying to also speak to these guys. Secondary audience are probably the same for any marketing function around the world. That would be the journalist audience, to obviously be able to get some good PR for a name and build authority through that, but also the investor audience, especially for us, we're a traded company. So obviously, speaking to the investor sort of audience is also something important. But primarily, I would say we're talking to employers and candidates. And how we do that, which was, I suppose, the second part of your question, through a whole bunch of channels, from digital channels to offline channels. We've got a lot of sort of, I suppose, content dissemination happening offline as well, with big events. That was pre-COVID, or now we've obviously moved that to more of a webinar format and digital channels, but also trying to and we've been working very hard at digitizing the approach there. We're very, very happy, for example, to claim to be the most followed recruiter on LinkedIn, which is probably one of the most important content platform you can think of when it comes to recruitment and career management, with about 4.3 million followers around the world on that platform. So something that we're definitely investing a lot of our budgets and time into, and we're trying to build reputation and more followers through this platform, for example. Another sort of type of channel would be, I suppose, other types of social media, whether we're talking about image related social media like Instagram, for example, or any other sort of platform in there, or more generally the email channel, which for me might be a bit old fashioned, but still feel that people's inbox remains probably the best place for me to reach out and engage with people in the right way, obviously. I'm not spamming at all, but still believe that good targeted email with the right content to the right guy at the right time, with the relevant sort of content in there, will probably be one of the best tools I've got to engage with a particular individual.
Yeah, I definitely saw you guys are doing some really professional content, and I was impressed with you have like a full-fledged magazine, like the Hayes Journal. I was wondering what's the story behind that initiative.
Yeah, so that's something that obviously we started a few years ago with a view to imitate some of the other consultancies. I remember always sort of walking into my CEO's office and seeing a full shelf of McKinsey's magazines, being over there. So the idea of the Hayes Journal has always been to try to build, that sort of evergreen content, as we call it, a bit more sort of a journalistic approach, and have something that can be printed, sitting on people's desk. So that's a fantastic tool for our consultants or commercial people to literally sort of walk into someone's office and basically hand over a copy of the Hayes Journal. But the other sort of tactics or strategy around the Hayes Journal has always been to try to have sort of defining stories and talk about trends in the recruitment and HR industry in general terms to our target audiences. So it's primarily targeting the B2B target audience, our clients, mainly HR people, HR directors. And the goal is obviously to have I suppose, a journalistic approach in the way we're building that content to make sure that the target audience sees this as an anchor. Once a quarter, they will have their Hayes Journal. And I think over time we've managed to basically build a tool that really allows our brand name and our brand in general to stand out in the recruitment industry, and have some really compelling stories with the latest trends, I would say, around HR and recruitment in general. Really hitting these guys and giving food for thought in the end.
Okay. Yeah, that's a super interesting initiative. And I wanted to also ask you, because our audience at the Content Mix are like professionals in marketing and in content creation who are looking to advance in their careers. So the topic of recruiting is quite relevant. And I was curious, like, what are the kind of trends that you are seeing right now in recruitment, and what kinds of resources are you creating for, I mean, both the recruiters and the recruitees in this time during this, poor economic environment, I would say.
Yeah, well, in terms of like trends uh, for content marketing, I think that we're all seeing the same thing, which is definitely a shortening of the cycles. I would even claim that there's a bit of a content fatigue, definitely content fatigue happening, right now. So I think the name of the game for us is to stand out, obviously, and try to grab some share of mind, I would say, from our competition, because I think there's absolutely no shortage of content nowadays, especially with social platforms. So how do you stand out? How do you personalize as much as possible content at scale? And there are plenty of tools that allow you to do that, so that you can interact and engage with your target audience in a very meaningful way at the right time with the right messaging. So I think that we're all sort of seeing this in recruitment in particular. Obviously, our industry is following the economic cycles quite closely. So when things are great economically, companies tend to hire, and candidates have more confidence into sort of moving jobs, which is definitely something that's helping. So we're following this through, and therefore that informs the way we are crafting the content, the editorial calendar, and the policies that we've got, as well as the tone of voice that we're going to be sort of moving. But in terms of long-term trends for us in recruitment, it's all about becoming more and more of a lifelong career partner, I would say, to our target audiences, to our candidates and clients, and not just be the guy that makes the match when someone is actively looking for a new job, or when an organization is actively looking for backfilling an empty position, for example. So having content in the mix there is absolutely capital, and I would say that content marketing is one of the fundamental sort of pillar of our marketing strategy. It's the blood that will really feed through our channels, our marketing channels, and we're really putting a lot of sort of investment time into developing original, constant, and I guess good content for our target audience to ensure that these guys are interacting with us in the right way. Now, the other part of your question was, what do I see in terms of trends for content marketers, maybe, or marketing individuals in terms of their employability nowadays? I think that there are still lots and lots of pockets of opportunities for individuals with ambition and with the right sort of skill set. We're definitely seeing that anything that's obviously data centric and data driven in terms of sort of marketing roles is definitely in high demand. And I would probably say that anyone with capital or skill set in data led marketing is not going to sort of have too much problem finding a good job nowadays. That still is something where marketing departments are investing. But that's basically at the border of data science and proper creative marketing, I would say. So my advice would be to basically try to develop your experience and a skill set that basically span over the two sides. Have creativity, a sensibility for marketing, an eye for branding, but obviously also a keen eye or sensitivity towards data, and really making decision whether it's in the budgets or an editorial calendar, really made and based on data. And I think that data-driven content decisions nowadays, in particular, are absolutely paramount for any good marketer.
Yeah,
so hopefully
actually,
that answers your question. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah, and that's actually a question that comes up a lot in our Facebook community. Is like, what continuing education would make sense to pursue, and that's a good point. I guess courses around data and how that ties into marketing and the more technical side of things is really valuable right now.
Completely.
Yeah. I wanted to also ask you about, as you work across various markets in Europe, just kind of what do you find challenging about that?
Well, it's a challenge, but it's also a great pleasure. I suppose the number one thing that I keep saying to my boss is that, yes, unfortunately, not everyone speaks English across Europe, and we've got to deal with a variety of languages, but also cultures. So we've got to be very mindful of that, and we're trying to address that localization challenge as best as we can. It takes resources, it takes time, but I think that trying to become good at it, which I think is the case for Hayes, really allows us to stand out. So it's a variety of techniques, I would say. Obviously, we've got central teams that are completely dedicated in sort of building different blocks for content strategy, whether it's pan-European reports and surveys, trying to sort of figure out what maybe the target audience wants in this particular geography or that other geography. But also we're giving lots and lots of freedom to local marketing teams to also come up with their local content. So I would say that the right sort of mix for me would be a blend of the two, centrally driven good content, which allows us to really sort of build thought leadership, authority on segments like recruitment in our case. And to be frank, the way people are looking for a job or looking at talent is not drastically different from one country to another. So I think that the sort of type of content that we're building in one geography can definitely be realized in many form or shape in other geographies, but complementing this with not just the I guess the right level of translations and localizations, but also I guess almost like added bits, that are very, very genuine, very local, really makes a world of difference. So I'll give you a concrete example. We are basically publishing the Hayes Journal, for example, which is the same journal for everyone around the world. Obviously, we are covering lots of topics that are, we feel, very relevant to our target audience and very topical in essence. Then that goes to the hands of our local marketers that basically take it to market. It's translated, it's printed, it's completely localized. But we're really wrapping this with lots of sort of promotional marketing that's done in local languages, videos, social graphics, extracts that are translated and relayed and repurposed on local blogs. Or, for example, some of the articles are used as sort of then the basis for speeches that we're making at speaking opportunities or local events. So I guess the mechanic to translate, localize, and repurpose pieces of content across the patch is really what's at stake there. And I think that if you're capable of going relatively quickly with the right tone of voice and really build that experience over time, that's when sort of your content becomes more and more impactful and relevant to your target audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. It sounds like Hayes has really bet on localized content marketing. That's awesome. Yeah. I didn't realize that you had it in all these languages, the Hayes Journal. So super interesting. So I wanted to move to the recommendations part of the interview. So could you let me know what's a source of professional inspiration or marketing inspiration for you?
Well, I've got an all-time god in marketing called Seth Godin. You can obviously Google, YouTube his name, and you'll come up with lots of TED Talks. He's a great guy, but I remember sort of reading a quote from him a long time ago, which I think is still very relevant in October 2020. And he said, marketing is not about the stuff you're selling. It's about the stories you're telling. And I really believe in that. I really believe that storytelling remains at the at the center of any good marketing plan. It's about creating emotions. It's about creating relevancy. It's about touching people's hearts. It's about being romantic to a certain extent with your content, if I may say. And I think that, for example, if I sort of take this back to my role and what we do in recruitment, we we may be face value of it sort of building lots of content that's maybe a bit technical sometimes or very industry driven. But for example, one of the core surveys that we are launching every year is called the Salary Guide, and that's something that everybody is definitely sort of willing to look at once a year, and it's become an anchor in our marketing calendars and in our editorial calendars. And the reason, at the end being that people always want to know if they're well paid or not, and for employers to know whether they should give that raise or maybe sort of bump up or bump down someone's salary. So that comes back to the very core, I think, of why we're working, which is trying to make a living and trying to connect your content with that story, with that romanticism, so to say, what touches people really at the core is super important. So thank you, Seth, if you're listening to me today, for that huge source of inspiration. But he's the one.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's a great example. And then, well, also wanted to ask you your favorite app.
Well, it's nothing original, but I'm commuting still to work nowadays. So Waze is probably the one that I'm using the most, and I find the most useful as a network of individual drivers nowadays.
Yeah, no, it's a useful recommendation because not everyone has discovered the magic of Waze, I imagine. They're still using Google Maps, but now
might be.
Has some cool features. Okay, and then any like recommended resource for those job seekers out there?
Yeah, I think that it's about well, first and foremost, having fun into what we do. I think that translates definitely into a CV, into the way people are behaving during interviews, for example, and that's the connection that you're trying to make when you're trying to convince someone to hire you. So for active job seekers, that's what I would say. It's about researching and trying to find the right messaging and really customizing one's approach to a particular job. But in terms of my advice to content marketing peers, I would say that what I'm seeing now, especially with the rise of COVID, is that we all got to get back to basics. And as mentioned, a little bit earlier with my safeguarding sort of quote, it's about the stories, it's about being original. But also it's about proper planning. I think that having a good message framework and a good editorial calendar that keeps on evolving is absolutely paramount. And then obviously being influenced by data and what is it that people are reading, how do they react to your blogs, which sort of link do they click onto when they get your emails or see your graphics or your infographics on social platforms, how long are they sort of watching your videos and so on, is definitely informing again the storytelling cycle in the end. We've got to compete nowadays with lots and lots of media and content outlets. So always being on is absolutely paramount. And to be able to be on always, you've got to define and build a machinery that allows you to do that. But at the end of it all, it's the quality of the story that will make a difference, I think. And it's back to good journalism or good magazines and good content. And if you're original and you stand out, then there's no particular reason why your marketing cannot be successful.
And I was curious if you have any like shameless plug for content from Hays. Like I know you have a blog and training resources as well. Anything that might be useful for members of the content mix?
Yeah, a couple of things I can think of. Definitely check our corporate blog, social.hays.com, where you'll see a large variety of our content from the Hays Journal, for example, to some of the latest videos that we're producing in multiple languages, some of the influencers that we're inviting to come and talk to us on our network. But also, I think try to see or check the format that we are doing that into. There are sort of obvious things that you'll see, having a title with top 10 tips on how to write a CV, or the top 5 questions that you should be asking to someone willing to recruit you. You'll see how we're formatting and trying to basically make those pieces of content as snackable as possible, so that people keep on enjoying these. So that would be the main resource I would point you guys to, social.haze.com.
Okay, yeah, definitely. It sounds interesting to check out, both from the point of view of like seeing your strategy in content marketing, but also sounds like there's some practical tips in there for people who might be looking to change jobs as well. So very cool. Okay, well, any like parting thoughts as we end the interview?
No, well, I guess keep the bar high, be ambitious for your content and for yourself. I think marketing is absolutely essential for any organization. Obviously, I've been working in this field for many years, but I don't see any reason why the purpose of marketing should be challenged nowadays. But for me, I would probably conclude back on that story sort of telling notion. I think that having good stories for your target audience is really what will make your marketing unique, and will allow you to gain trust and therefore build relationships and run some good sales at the end. That's what it's all about. So good luck, guys, and feel free to reach out to me if you want to continue the chat.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and knowledge with us.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks everybody for listening in. For more perspectives on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out thecontentmix.com and keep tuning in to the podcast for daily interviews with content experts across Europe. See you next time. Bye.